There is.
It's
So
out
you're
there.
saying
There is hope. There's a chance
Yes.
for Hot 6. So
Yeah,
far,
not
they just have to win everything.
Yeah, not
Realistic probability,
right. Not very likely.
less than 1 digit. That is not possible. Point one
Okay.
digit.
What do you think, Ben?
Who does eHome play?
eHome has to play CDEC.
E-home, yeah.
And CDEC is currently 4-0-1, so they've won 4 of their matches.
I mean, eHome beating CDEC is not that improbable.
They did it in
just
the,
because of the qualifiers,
in
but
the-
in this particular tournament, CDEC's looking much better. So,
Right.
I mean, I think eHome is probably the most likely candidate for 4th slot, especially because they have 2 series left to play, I believe.
Just
one?
one now.
Did they
Oh
already
no, they
play
do have.
Virtus Pro?
No,
You
they
don't
have
have
to play Virtus Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Virtus Pro as well as EG, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's
First Pros will CDEC.
CDEC, yeah. eHome has to play CDEC.
okay.
Either there's.
And I don't know if you mentioned, but it's also important, like, as far as the top of the group, what is it? So if in their 2 last matchups, if CDEC get just 1 draw, they're tied for first.
If CDEC gets only 1 draw.
Because CDEC has 12 points and EG has 10.
Right.
And CDEC has 2 series remaining and EG has 1.
But that
No,
one of them is EG.
Yeah,
So,
so if
EG
they
has to beat CDEC.
EG has to beat CDEC, but then if CDEC draws against the other team, oh yeah, then they
CDEC
actually have
just
to win
needs
because they would lose on heads up.
To
Right.
win 2 games.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
it. They just need
They
to
have to
win
win 2 games in
That's
separate
it.
series. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's true.
Against
So-
either EG or eHome.
yeah, or 1 in each.
Or one in
Or
each.
one
So
in
yeah,
each,
CDEC
that's right.
simply just has to win 2 maps, and then they're cruising through in first place in Group B, which is probably the biggest surprise in terms of how big of a surprise it itself is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not just playing well, but for them to move up over a team like EG, over some of these other teams like Vici Gaming in Group B.
Coming from the wild card, too.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that. It's like a Cinderella story in itself.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter where they end up now in the main event, the fact that they pulled that off in 1 week span is a pretty impressive feat. And we talked about this in the wildcard plans. We said, yeah, they're the favorite in the wildcard plans, but within the wildcard plans. Any of these teams, if they move through, maybe top 8, most likely top 10 is what you guys said. Now it's not looking like it anymore. CDEC definitely pulling a big shot here for TI5.
Well, 2 of the qualifier teams already are top 10.
That's very true.
Or top 9, I guess. Or yeah, it's like it's weird to talk about top 10 because 9 through 12 is the same placement this year. There's 13, 16, 9 through 12, and then it's like 5, 6, and then each individual place after that. I think so.
Yeah.
But Complexity and CDEC are already confirmed winners bracket, which means if you lose out from there, you're still 9th.
Right.
Because you skip the first round in the lower bracket, which bumps you up that 1 step.
Yeah.
So
That's
they're
true.
going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. I mean, they've already secured, what's that, $215,000 right now for 9th through 12th.
Something like that, I believe,
So
yeah.
No big deal.
it's pretty good going to that.
No big deal.
And
Let's
there's an
just figure.
interesting thing that was brought up yesterday is that if you win your first match in the winners bracket, you win $1 million.
That's TI1 right there.
Yes.
That's
Right.
the grand final
Yeah.
Sixth
right there.
Place,
about
sixth
that.
place this year is 1.15 million yesterday, and you jump up from the about 200,000 I said. So that
Yes,
one best of
that's
3
a
is worth $1 million.
huge difference.
That's
So
absolutely
you probably want to
insane.
choose your opponent that you can
Yeah.
beat
Right,
with
and
an
yeah,
easy
that's
million.
why it matters so much. Again, I mean, sure, if you've already achieved somewhat of your goal, there's less pressure, but at the same time, when you're that close, like when it's only 1 match, it's not that you have to win the finals. That's a pretty big deal, and you're like, you get excited, right? You're like, all right, I want my best shot. Going back to it, though, again, Group B, nothing is set yet. MVP Hot 6 still technically has that chance. If anything, they still have a chance to be able to select their opponents in the lower bracket. Just because they're at the very bottom of Group B does not mean they're down and out, and they simply just have to boost their confidence. And again, we talk about everyone having this story a little bit. Hot 6, of course, a bit of a nice story among themselves. We're going to take a look at Heen and his team's history coming into TI5.
I grew up in many places because my dad, he's a diplomat, so I had to follow him around on his tours. Every time we move, it's goodbye to my friends, and as I got older, it was harder to make friends. I started playing games at the age of 8 or 9. Our country had one of the first esports scene in the world, and even as a kid, there were professional gamers who were making big bucks and getting a lot of airtime, and the more and more I tried, the more and more it seemed like I could be one of those people. And by the time I was 22, I was playing competitively. At the age of 24 is when I was called to the army service. It was hard for me as a gamer because I thought I was playing the best just before I had to go into the military.
When you go to military service, you're usually like, hey, I'm done from competitive gaming. I'm done.
It was kind of like recovering from an injury, and I tried my best to get in shape again. Towards the end of my service, March recruited me, even though I had been not in the scene for 2 years.
When I see the players, I value their talents, but also I value their approach to the games and their passions. And then he had all three, so I was sure that he'll be back up there.
We played together for a year, and that's when I moved to MVP Hot 6. My role on the team as a captain, it's to make sure that everyone on my team is given a chance to play their A game. So I want to give them confidence. I hope TI5 will be the tournament that proves to me that my team can be one of the best. But it would basically be a statement for myself that I can achieve anything, as long as I don't give up.
Yeah,
chopping
so-
all the onions in here, man.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these have brought out just amazing stories behind many of these players, and probably all of them have it. I mean, we don't have time to film and show a story for every single player in TI5, but all of them also talk about their team in general. And this one particularly, I mean, March says it, right? For any country, not just Korea, that has required military service, when you go in, I mean, in any industry, if you go away for 2 years, coming back and saying that you're in your prime is a very tough thing to do. He's here going for another shot. And, I mean, he's already made it to TI, but to go further would be quite the jump and the confidence boost that he can continue, as he mentioned at the very end there.
Who was it that also went into military service? I'm thinking of HYHY. Is that correct, or am I mixing it up with something else? Because I seem to remember there was another major SEA player that had forced military service, whatever you call it.
I mean, I know they
And,
talked about March, how he will be
Yeah,
going.
March
will be going,
will
right.
be, but
going.
it's something that goes back a bit further, maybe a few years. I can't remember if it was HYHY or not.
That sounds
maybe
about
I'm
right
wrong,
to me.
but he never really made the comeback. If that was after he quit, like I honestly
Right.
can't remember. I don't know how much he's been trying. I think he's been saying that he's interested in making a comeback. Of course, another star player from SEA, very memorable, especially from his Dota 1 days, and TI1 where he finished third with Scythe. So it is really unfortunate for these players that they have to do it. I think maybe in some ways, though, a player like Heen, I'm not sure what the military service is like in South Korea, but it's also possible that it can be a great learning experience where you can translate some of it into your Dota play, like when it comes to training regime,
Right.
mentality, how to pump up yourself to get the job done with the team and stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
that makes him a really good captain.
I mean, when you listen to various countries, not just South Korea, again, it obviously, like you said, depends on which division you're in, et cetera, going into that military service. But sometimes you come out with the advantage of having that discipline, right? And then you're older, you're a little bit more mature in that sense. And as you said, maybe you can act as a better captain for that team. Hot Six not doing so well record-wise yet, but they still have that chance. And at the very least, if they can end up in the top half of the lower bracket, they get to choose their opponent. Maybe they can go forward there. And maybe, as Ben was mentioning earlier, maybe avoid the chance of Phoenix picking their sister team here, Hot Six, as we go forward into the bracket stage. But so Hot Six games will be coming up shortly on our streams across the board, and MVP Hot Six. 2 matches left again. It's going to be Newbie and Empire, and all 3 of those teams actually still a lot to prove. So as you can see on stream 2 and 3, well, they won't be playing simultaneously, but they will be going forward. Hot Six will play one, and then the other going forward. Now coming back to the top half of Group B, CDEC versus EG. Right? Yeah, this is an exciting matchup. I mean, we saw the LGD Secret match yesterday, and now here we are with CDEC versus EG. But again, no one expected to be like, all right, the Titan matchup of Group B is going to be CDEC and EG, right? Everyone thought EG was going to be in there, but CDEC surprising. How well prepared do you think EG is for this?
I was going to just say something to go on that note, too, because, and it could be all up front, but whenever they like to interview, like, their captain, PPD and stuff, they always talk about, like, oh, I don't really watch much of the Chinese teams and how they play, you know, we're just going to bring our style. Now, they could be lying and actually be researching and stuff, but CDEC is one of those teams that maybe they actually did look over. Being a wildcard team, they're probably like, we don't have to worry too much about them, but now they're the most hyped up match today, and I really hope they didn't just look over them because they bring a very aggressive style that can throw EG off.
A lot of teams have been citing his gyrocopter, aggressive gyrocopter, as very difficult hero-player combination to play against, but they also he plays a lot of different heroes. I saw them like run Slardar and just absolutely destroy yesterday, so I think even if they just pull from this most recent pool of TI matches from CDEC, they're still not going to have a lot of information about them, and I can't expect for PPD to be fully prepared for this match.
I think what he will do, though, is probably look to counter out aggressive in lane, if he can do that. I think he is really what, like, obviously everyone in the team is doing a lot of work, but it just seems like aggressive, what has really given them a lot of their wins is that he's really good at being an active carry. In a sense, it's similar to how we see for Secret Arteezy. In the past, he had a time when he farmed a lot. He's starting to get way more involved, apart from when he's playing Anti-Mage and he has to farm.
Right.
But sometimes when we see him on other carries, he does like to join fights earlier with his gyrocopter, unless, it's kind of the direction the game is going in, that teams gather up and fight really early, so your carry needs to be able to join small skirmishes, ganks, and, of course, big team fights. And when it comes to aggressive, I think you ban the gyrocopter. To me, that's just a given. You ban the gyrocopter and you try to get the quap. And then if he goes for something like a Slaughter or maybe his Juggernaut that I don't know if they've used this tournament, maybe they've done it once, you try to maybe challenge him in the lane so that you get to dictate the flow and the speed of the game.
Okay, well, now, whenever we talk about EG and their preparation, a lot of times it shows right away in their very first phase bans, because they ban things that most other teams do not in the first phase. They let a lot of the high priority picks just stay open for both teams to take as a free-for-all. You mentioned Gyro definitely still ban out when it's up against CDEC. Are there any other heroes you would like to see, or you think that EG might want to just ban out in the first phase, contrary to some of the other popular ones?
Lina and TA maybe for Shiki, especially when Shiki's on Dire. I think the TA is a very, very scary pick, and I know that Sumail doesn't really mind playing against a TA as a Storm Spirit, but just that whole sort of like Roshan control, just because if their carry is very, very aggressive and they can just secure map control in the first 10 minutes, you don't want them getting Rosh, because then it's just going to